What are some of the different funding strategies that you're seeing now that productions are using to actually fund their films?
So your finance strategy is going to depend on a lot of things. Main one is your budget, right? If you have the bigger budgets, you're going to have a different strategy from smaller budgets. So if your budget is, $500,000, your finance strategy is going to be way different from if your budget is 3 million, and it's going to be different from if your budget is 25 million, right?
So for example, let's say under 500,000.
So let's say your budget is 250,000.
Okay.
So your finance, forget about tax credits, right? At that budget. Forget about production loan at that budget. You're probably going to think of private equity at that budget.
And how about equity crowdfunding?
Right,
Well?
or crowdfunding. And the crowdfunding is not as easy as it sounds.
No.
In order to do that, you're going to need to have a following, right? So you may want to attach someone who is famous and popular to your project because they have a following, or you have a lot of friends. And if you already have a lot of friends, you really don't even need to do crowdfunding. You just call them and say, hey, invest in my project, right? So crowdfunding is requires a certain strategy that usually begins with you either having a subject matter that appeals to a certain group of people, or you have someone on your project who has a following. They have 10 million followers on Twitter, or you create an amazing trailer that has 50 million views, right? Then you can tap into those people to give you $100,000 or $1. But if you know nobody, you have no friends, and you put
That sounds so sad.
oh yeah, and you put
don't know
and you
nobody, you don't have no
and you
friends.
create a Kickstarter campaign, you're not going to get any money.
Of course not.
One last thing about crowdfunding is that you can still win even if you don't reach your goal, right? Because the nature of film is it's about spreading it like wildfire. So if you have 10,000 people donating to your campaign, that's 10,000 fans, 10,000 potential buyers. That's marketing. So even if you didn't reach your goal and you didn't get the money, but that's 10,000 people. Investors look at that. Investors will look to see, well, how many people supported that campaign,
Right.
because investors thinking about the return on investment. Well, if you have 10,000 people who support your campaign, then those same 10,000 people are going to become your ambassador, right? They're going to spread the word. So if I'm going to invest in this film, I will give you the budget, right? Even though you didn't reach your target on Kickstarter, I'm going to give you the budget. But you're going to keep in touch with those 10,000 people, follow up with them. They're going to help you to spread the word about your
So
film.
it sounds like what you're saying is that if you're looking to attract investors, you might want to do a crowdfunding campaign first to see how many people are interested and to prove that there's interest there, and then take your project to investors.
Cautiously, right? Because if it fails, I mean, what if? Because the opposite could work, right? I mean, the opposite is also true. You put your project on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and 10 people donate. That's not good, right? The investor is going to be like, well, nobody likes your project. Why should I, right? So that's why strategy is very important. You need to have a strategy. You need to know how this is going to work, and you need to have some kind of forecast or a way to predict how it's going to work out.
When in terms of like actually even tapping into investors, there was the strategy of dialing for dollars. Do you still see that as a way that folks are actually reaching investors, just picking up the phone and just dialing as many numbers as possible and sending out as many query letters or quote unquote query letters as possible?
I mean, people still do it. It's very time consuming, and it's a hit or miss. And you will need to have resources to do that. You know, if you're calling 20,000 people, you probably need a room full of people to do that. You know, for a month. Always start with the people you know, because the people who know you are the ones who are more likely to invest in you for you, and not just the project, because you know they don't really care about getting a return on investment. They're doing it because of you, right?
For someone who's considering equity crowdfunding, what are some of the legal ramifications that they need to be aware of if they're considering that strategy?
So, do your due diligence on the on whichever platform you're using. Hire an entertainment attorney or a securities attorney, because there are a lot of disclosures that you are required by law to provide. Most platforms, for a fee, they will provide you with these disclosures for a fee. And I can tell you a lot of these platforms charge just the same or even more than a lawyer would charge for you to be on their platform and to provide you with all that paperwork. But when you're doing equity crowdfunding, you know, you have to consider, make sure that you comply with state and federal securities laws. And
so each state is different, in other words.
Yes.
So how does that work, though? For example, if I have my project and I'm doing equity crowdfunding on Indiegogo, and somebody lives in California versus somebody lives in New York, and how does that work?
Well, in that case, federal securities laws would be the important law to follow in that case, which allows for interstate commerce, right? So California and most states already have provisions for equity crowdfunding. And so if you comply with New York, you probably already comply with California. And usually on the website and in the offering, it would state the requirement for each state, right? And so if someone, you know, in Ohio decides to invest, there shouldn't be a problem, right? As long as there's a proper disclosure for that particular state.